YouTube is brimming with videos like 10 things poor people do that the rich don't, or 15 things rich people do that the poor don't. Many of them are quite interesting and are fun to watch, but they don't explain the difference. Do you truly believe that the difference between wealth and poverty boils down to whether you wake up at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. or how much TV you watch? Neither do I. Changing these habits alone won't magically make you wealthy. The real distinction lies deeper in the mindset and the approach to the game of money. In this video, we will look at 8 things that poor people do that keep them poor. Number 1, poor people play defense. If you were to approach any game solely on defense, what are the chances of you winning that game? Extremely low or none, right? And yet, when it comes to the game of money, many people adopt precisely that strategy. Their primary aim isn't to excel or reach the top, it's merely to avoid losing. Their goal is simply to pay the bills and stay out of debt. The issue with this defensive approach is that when your sole objective is to stay afloat, that's the maximum you'll achieve. Sure, some individuals do a bit better. They save a fraction of their income, invest it cautiously in the stock market, and cross their fingers that it doesn't crash. They hope that by the time they retire, they'll have something to fall back on. But until then, they're confined to the comfort zone of a modest paycheck. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with this mindset, but if your aspiration is limited to covering expenses, you'll remain stagnant. If you genuinely seek to amass wealth, you must abandon the defensive stance and adopt an offensive mindset. Aim for the stars, because as a wise man once said, if you shoot for the stars, you'll at least hit the moon. Number 2, poor people seek instant gratification. Consider this: if you plant a seed today, will you have a fully grown tree tomorrow? Of course not. Yet, many individuals expect immediate results when it comes to their finances. They prioritize short-term pleasures over long-term gains. Rather than investing in their future, they indulge in impulse purchases, splurging on items they don't need with money they haven't earned yet. From the latest gadgets to fancy dinners, they chase fleeting happiness at the expense of their financial stability. But here's the harsh reality: wealth accumulation requires patience and delayed gratification. It's about sacrificing today's wants for tomorrow's needs. As the saying goes, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now. So, if you find yourself succumbing to the allure of instant gratification, remember that true prosperity is built over time, brick by brick, not bought on a whim. Number 3, poor people work hard for their money. It might sound counterintuitive at first glance. Aren't you supposed to work hard for your money? Let me clarify. When most individuals want to increase their income, what's their first instinct? They strive for promotions, work overtime, or even consider taking on additional jobs. However, here's the catch: no matter how diligently you work, your time remains finite. Rich individuals grasp this concept well. Instead of toiling endlessly for their income, they leverage their resources to generate wealth autonomously. To them, money isn't merely a means to an end, it's a tool capable of multiplying itself. Unlike the common perception of money as a ticket to instant gratification, the wealthy view it as a strategic asset. Sure, initially hard work may be necessary to accumulate wealth, but for the affluent, it's a temporary phase. Once they reach a point where their money can labor on their behalf, they attain unparalleled freedom. So while the poor continue to toil for every penny, the rich understand the power of allowing their money to work for them, paving the way for a life of abundance and autonomy. Number 4, poor people focus on obstacles. Let me share a story about a friend of mine who has been talking about starting a chain of restaurants for the past 3 or 4 years. Every time I inquire why he hasn't taken the plunge yet, his response is predictable: I don't have the money, and I don't want to get into debt, and therein lies the issue. Poor people are perpetually on the lookout for potential roadblocks. In those 4 years, he could have sought out investors or diligently saved up to kickstart his venture. Yet, he hasn't even bothered to conduct market research or draft a business plan. His belief that once he secures the funding, everything else will magically fall into place. But the reality is far from that. Another obstacle will inevitably rear its head. Regardless of the industry, obstacles are par for the course. Countless factors could derail your plans. Yet, Individuals like my friend remain stagnant, endlessly lamenting the challenges without taking action. And if you find yourself in a similar predicament, constantly bemoaning the difficulties without making strides forward, you're likely stuck in the same financial quagmire. Some individuals take it a step further. Even with the resources and essentials at their disposal, they fret over potential failures. What if it doesn't work? What if people realize I've failed, but here's the truth: no one cares about your failures as much as you do. It's time to shift your focus from obstacles to opportunities and take proactive steps toward your financial aspirations. Number 5. Poor people choose to be paid based on time. How often do we hear individuals proclaim, "I deserve to be paid $50 or $60 an hour"? They boast about their prestigious degrees, their unparalleled work ethic, or their superior intellect. But let me tell you something: nobody gives a damn. Would you watch this video simply because I spent hours creating it? Of course not. What truly matters is the value you bring to the table. You might toil harder than Jeff Bezos himself, but here's the harsh reality: Bezos earns around $4.5 million per hour, not because he's complaining, but because his company consistently delivers value to millions worldwide. It's not about how many hours you put in, it's about the impact you make. So instead of fixating on your hourly rate, focus on creating value that resonates with others. Because in the end, it's the value you provide that determines your worth, not the time you spend. Number 6. Poor people resent rich and successful people. The other day, I stumbled upon an interview featuring a highly successful and renowned entrepreneur. Curious to gauge the public response, I perused the comments section. To my surprise, a slew of remarks disparaged the individual, branding him a douchebag and a scumbag. This reaction puzzled me. Here was a person who undoubtedly worked tirelessly to ascend to his position. Even if he inherited some of his wealth, chances are he exhibited far more discipline and dedication than most. Yet, some individuals harbor an inexplicable animosity toward the top 1% or affluent families. Instead of embracing a mindset of envy and resentment, consider this life hack: why not aspire to join their ranks? Rather than fixating on tearing others down, channel that energy into elevating yourself. After all, success isn't a finite resource, it's attainable for anyone willing to put in the effort and adopt a positive outlook. So instead of harboring resentment, why not harness admiration and strive to emulate their success? Number 7. Poor people think they know everything. This is perhaps the most absurd of all. When faced with financial woes, what do people often do? They lament endlessly, casting blame in every direction, from politicians running the country to their own bosses. Yet, suggest picking up a book and learning the basics of money management, and what's the response? This is my money, and I know how to handle it. But here's the paradox: if they truly had everything figured out, why are they perennially broke? They'll furnish you with a litany of excuses, deflecting responsibility at every turn. And it's not just limited to matters of finance, it pervades every aspect of life. Ever noticed how individuals embroiled in an argument vehemently strive to prove their infallibility, even if they're blatantly wrong? Instead of embracing opportunities to learn and grow, they cling stubbornly to the illusion of their own omniscience. I'll admit, I too harbored this mentality during my teenage years. I was obstinate, convinced of my own expertise. But then it dawned on me, unless I shed this facade of knowing it all, I'd remain stagnant, stunting my own growth. So I made a conscious effort to abandon the pretense of omniscience, and instead focused on identifying my shortcomings and rectifying them. After all, true wisdom begins with humility and a willingness to learn. Number 8. Poor people mismanage their money. Understanding how to manage money isn't innate, it's a skill that must be acquired. Just because you're earning doesn't automatically mean you're adept at handling finances. Many believe that budgeting and prudent spending limit their freedom. They'd rather indulge in immediate gratification upon receiving their paycheck. But here's the truth: without proper money management, achieving financial independence remains a distant dream. That fleeting rush of impulse spending isn't genuine freedom, it's a mirage. Additionally, there's a misconception that managing large sums of money is inherently easier. In reality, it's far more challenging than anticipated. If you struggle to handle your current paycheck, do you truly believe you'll fare better with 10 times that amount? By now, it's evident that a poor mentality, not lack of money, is the root cause of poverty. The good news? Mindsets can be changed. It won't happen overnight, nor will it miraculously transform you into a wealthy individual, but gradually your perspective will shift. Instead of dwelling on complaints, you'll seize opportunities and make strategic choices to improve your financial situation. As the wise adage goes, the best way to help the poor is not to become one of them. If you found value in this content, consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing your thoughts in the comments section. Let me know which strategies you're currently implementing to pave your path to prosperity.